So last class we talked about solving one-step equations, and today we're going to talk about solving two-step equations. So it's a little more challenging, but it is the same concept. So when solving two-step equations, you need to move the constant away from the side with the variable first. Then solve the one-step equation. So we need to move the constant away from the side with the variable. So if we have these equations down here, we need to find the side with the variable. So the 4x minus 9 is our side with the variable. And we need to find the constant in here. And remember, a constant is just a number that doesn't have anything connected to it. So it doesn't have a variable. So a constant would be like 3, or plus 5, or negative 7. This would be, if it was 3x, this would be the coefficient. We're looking for only the constant, nothing with a variable connected to it. So this 4x would have a coefficient and a variable. We just want the constant. So in the side with our variable, so this side of our equation, we're looking for the constant, and that constant is negative 9, or minus 9, because it does not have a variable. In number 2, we're looking on the side of our equation with our variable, so over here with 4 minus 5r, our constant is that number that does not have a variable, so 4. And then in number 3, we are looking on the side with the variable. So I want you to see if you can find the constant and circle it on your paper. When you're ready to check your answers, go ahead and hit play. Please pause the video. Okay, so the constant in this one is 17. Now the constants are important to find because we need to move those in our equations first. So in 3x plus 1 equals 7, we need to find the constant first because that's the first thing we need to do. So our constant is this plus 1. So in our equation, we are going to start with that step. We need to get this plus 1 to the other side of our equation so that we can solve for x. So like we did on the last class, we have to do the opposite of plus 1, which is minus 1. And what we do to one side of the equation, we have to do the other, so minus 1. You can draw a line if that helps you a little bit. 7 minus 1 is 6. This plus 1 and minus 1 cancel out because it would just be 0. And we're going to bring down the rest of the equation. So 3x. Now we are able to solve for x. So we need to get rid of this 3. So we're multiplying 3 times x. So the opposite or the inverse of multiplying is dividing by 3. So we're going to divide both sides by 3. So we have x, because these cancel out, equals 6 divided by 3. Go ahead and type it in your calculator, do it in your head. Is 2, so our x equals 2. We're not done yet because we haven't checked it yet. So the same way we checked with one step, we're going to do a two step. We're just plugging in our x value for x in this equation. So we have 3 times 2, because 2 equals x, plus 1 equals 7. So using PEMDAS, we'll look at our parentheses. We can't do anything outside of our parentheses. Exponents, multiplication, and division. We do have multiplication. 3 times 2 is 6. Bring down the rest. Plus 1 equals 7. 6 plus 1 is 7. So 7 equals 7. This is true. So x does equal 2. So now we're going to do the next problem. We do need to edit this problem a little bit. I want you to scratch out this decimal 0.2. So it's just negative 8. And cross out the decimal in 15.75, so it's just 15. So our equation, if you want to rewrite it, is m minus negative 8 equals 15. Now, since we have a negative or a minus and a negative number, we have to do keep, change, change. It's the only time you'll have to do keep, change, change when you're solving one and two step equations, when you have a minus and a negative. Now, I remember that I have to do keep, change, change because I can connect these two lines, and this one parenthesis looks like a big plus sign. So I know it's going to be m plus 8 equals 15. Now you can also do it if we have the equation. I'll rewrite it for you. You can remember KCC, do m, this would be plus and a plus, so 2 pluses would be m plus 8 equals 15. Both ways work, it's whatever's easier for you. I always use this way. So, let's solve. We have m plus 8 equals 15. The first thing we have to get rid of is that constant. So our plus 8, the opposite of plus is minus, so we're going to subtract 8 on both sides. So whatever we do to one side, we have to do the other. So these cancel out. We're left with m. 15 minus 8, go ahead and type it in your calculator or do it in your head. (15 minus 8 is 7, so m equals 7. So we have what m equals, but we have to check. So again, we're just going to plug it into this equation. So our m is 7 minus negative 8 equals 15. And just go ahead and plug this part into your calculator. So you'll type in 7 minus, you'll click 8 and you'll hit the negative sign and hit equals, and you'll see if it equals 15. Let's type it in. And it does, so 15 equals 15. And this is true, so m does equal 7. Okay, so we are going to look at number 3. So first thing we have to do is find the side with the variable. This side is our side with our variable. So now we need to find our constant. Our constant's that number that's not with the variable. So this 6 is our constant. That's the first thing we're going to move to the other side of our equation. So this, even though there's not a plus in front of it, it's a positive 6. So the opposite of a positive is a negative. We're going to subtract 6 from each side and bring down what we get rid of. Because this plus 6 and minus 6 cancel out. So we're going to bring down negative 3x. And now we have to do 21 minus 6. Go ahead and type it in your calculator. 21 minus 6 equals 15. So now we have our next step of our equation. We have this negative 3x. We're multiplying. The only way to get these two numbers apart is to do the opposite or the inverse. So we'll divide by negative 3 on both sides. So x equals 15 divided by negative 3. Go ahead and type it in your calculators. Make sure you're careful with that one negative sign. And we get negative 5. So x equals negative 5, but we're not done yet because we didn't check. So we're going to plug in our x value as negative 5. So we have 6 minus 3 times negative 5 equals 21. Remember PEMDAS, parentheses, we can't do anything inside. Exponents, we don't have anything. Multiplication or division, moving from left to right. We have multiplication. So we're going to do 6 minus 3 times negative 5. Go ahead and type it in your calculator. Which is negative 15 equals 21. And then we are going to, we can just type the rest in our calculator. We're going to do 6 minus 15, make it negative, equals 21. Go ahead and type it in. And we get 21. So 21 equals 21. That is true. And remember, if we got a different answer over here other than 21, then we know that we made a mistake over here, so we'd have to go back and fix it. Okay. Last one of these. So we have this equation here, and the first thing we always have to do is find the side with the variable, so this side, and we need to find the constant because it's the first thing we want to move. So our constant is this 5. So we need to do the opposite of plus 5, which is minus 5. We need to do it to both sides, so minus 5 on this side. 6 minus 5, or let's start over here. Let's bring down everything we still have left, so these cancel out. So we have 1 third y equals 6 minus 5. Go ahead and type it in your calculator, do it in your head. 6 minus 5 equals 1. So now we have to get this 1/3 to the other side, so y is by itself. So right now it's 1/3 times y, so we need to do the opposite, or multiply by the reciprocal. So we need to flip that fraction, so make it 3 over 1. Anytime we have a fraction, you're going to flip it. So if we multiply 3 over 1 on this side, we have to multiply it on this side. So right now we use these canceled out. We're left with y equals 1. Remember, this 1's over a 1, so 1 times 3, we'll multiply our numerators and then we'll multiply our denominators. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 1 is 1. So y equals 3 is our answer. Now we need to check. 1/3 times 3 plus 5 equals 6. So let's try to solve it. So we can do, remember that this 3 is technically over 1, so we can do 1 times 3, which would be 3. 3 times 1, which would be 3, plus 5 equals 6. 3 divided by 3 is 1, plus 5 equals 6. 1 plus 5 is 6, so 6 equals 6. This is true, so y equals 3 is our answer. Okay, time for word problems. We need to write an equation to solve the problem. So a plumber charges $30 to come to a house and $25 an hour while fixing a leak. If the final bill for the visit was $105, how many hours was the plumber at the house? So the first thing we want to think about is what we know. It says the final bill right here of the visit is $105. So that's going to be your answer, because the final answer, or the final, is what we're trying to get to. So that's 105. Now it says the plumber charges $30 to come to a house. So we know we have to pay $30 no matter what. Because even if you want him to come to your house, you have to pay that $30. The next part is $25 an hour. So we have to pay $25 an hour, but do we know how many hours he is at our house? No, so that's our variable that we need to solve. So our variable will pick h. So here's our equation. And we just broke this up by thinking of what we already know. We knew our final bill would be $105. We knew we had to pay $30, and we had to pay $25 an hour. We had no clue how many hours he came to fix our leak. So now we're going to solve. The first thing you need to do is find that constant on the side with the variable. So our constant would be 30. The opposite of 30 would be minus 30. So we need to do minus 30 on both sides. Go ahead and type in your calculator 105 minus 30. So 105 minus 30 is 75. We're bringing down whatever we didn't use, which was 25h. So now we need to continue to solve. So we have this 25 stuck to our h. We're saying 25 times h. We need to do the opposite of multiplying, which is dividing. So we're going to divide both sides by 25. So h equals 75 divided by 25. Go ahead and type it in your calculator. And it equals 3. So we have h equals 3. That's our answer, but we're not done yet. We have to check to see if we got it right. Because if our check's wrong, we know we got the problem wrong. So we have 30 plus 25 times 3 equals 105. I want you to go ahead and solve this problem on your own. Hit play when you're ready to check your answers. Please pause the video. Okay, so first thing we need to do is look at the parentheses. Can't do anything. Exponents, we don't have any. Multiplication and division, 25 times 3. 25 times 3 is 75. So 30 plus 75 equals 105. 30 plus 75 equals 105. And 105 is 105. So we are good to go. Our answer is correct. So let's go to our next equation. This is like one we did in the last class, but a little bit different. So Aiden's age is 6 years less than half of Maggie's age. Aiden's age is 4 years. What is Maggie's age? Okay, so let's think of what we know. We know Aiden is 6 years less than, and less than means flip-flop, half Maggie's age. So we don't know what Maggie's age is. And Aiden is 4 years old, so it's going to equal 4, because is equals 4. So we need to flip-flop our two operations here. So we have 1/2 m minus 6, because less than means flip-flop, right? Equals 4. So now we have our equation. First thing we need to look for is our constant. Constant is minus 6. So I want you to try and just do the next step of this equation. So get this minus 6 to the other side, and then check your answer to see if you're right. Go ahead and pause the video. Okay, so the next thing you should have done is plus 6 on both sides, plus 6 on both sides. Bring down this 1/2 m and get 4 plus 6 is 10. So here is our next step, because these cancel out. So we have this 1/2 m equals 10. We need to get this half away from our m, so we need to multiply by the reciprocal. So anytime we have a fraction, we need to flip it. So we need to do 2 over 1 on this side, and anything we do to this side of our equation, we have to do this side. So 2 over 1. So these cancel out. So m equals, remember this 10's over 1. 10 times 2 is 20. 1 times 1 is 1. So m equals 20 divided by 1 is itself, so 20. So this is our answer, but we have to check. So we're going to plug in our m into our equation. We have 1/2 times 20 minus 6 equals 4. So PEMDAS, parentheses, can't do anything. Exponents, we don't have anything. Multiplication and division, hope we do. So we can do this two different ways. We can type in 1/2 into our calculator and get 0.5. Or we can multiply across, because this 20 is technically over 1. So 1 times 20 is 20, and 2 times 1 is 2, minus 6 equals 4. 20 divided by 2 is 10. Bring down that minus 6 equals 4. 10 minus 6 is 4 equals 4. This is true, so m equals 20 is our answer. So today we talked about solving two steps equations. The first thing we always do is look for the side of the equation with our variable and find the constant on that side, moving it to our other side of our equal sign. If we have an equation, we have to do one thing to one side, then we have to do it to the other side. That's the golden rule.